Friday, and welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Sinead DeVries, and this is The Daily Show, where we bring you the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Joining us this morning is Dennis Tzeng.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of Collider Movie Talk. It's Friday. It's also Spider-Man Homecoming Day.
Woo!
I hope if you guys haven't seen it yet, you guys should go check it out. Also, we're going to have a spoilers review up later today.
Also joining us today is Perri Nemiroff.
Let's get through this so I can go see Spider-Man Homecoming again, and so I can just sit and stare at my mailbox until my Mondo poster comes.
Also here is John Rocha.
Happy Friday, everybody. What's up? I got the Hawkman shirt on today, breaking out some old Comic-Con shirts because we're 2 weeks away. Let's make it happen. And guess what? Triple threat match today. Shmo down.
Also joining us is David Griffin.
I still haven't seen Spider-Man yet. Homecoming. What? Yeah, I need to see it. I think everybody else in the studio has seen it already.
They had showings last night.
I keep hearing it's good.
Okay.
I want that
Yeah.
on the poster.
Yeah. I keep hearing it's good. I haven't
David
seen it
Griffin
yet, but I
Collider.
keep hearing it's good. All right, what do we get up first?
Yesterday, Deadline confirmed a rumor that Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury will appear in Marvel's Captain Marvel movie starring Brie Larson. As it was first reported by Omega Underground, the size of Jackson's role is now currently up for debate, with Omega Underground reporting the role as co-star, while Deadline's language calls it an appearance, suggesting it could be a minor role or cameo. The last time Fury was on screen in a Marvel movie was in 2015's Age of Ultron. He'll next be seen in next year's Avengers Infinity War, which opens in theaters on May 4th, 2018. Dennis, what are your thoughts on Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury joining Captain Marvel?
Makes perfect sense because you're taking a property, Captain Marvel, which isn't that well known. I mean, even amongst comic book fans. So they're taking a character that's a familiar face, Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury, bringing her into the universe, and already connecting her to the MCU. Look, they did that to an extent with Spider-Man, with Iron Man and / Tony Stark. Obviously, Spider-Man is a bigger name, and everyone knows who that is. But the first thing they want to do is connect that to the universe, and I think they're doing the same thing. Perri?
Yeah, I mean, when this news broke, I kind of figured, also because there had been chatter about it. The thing that I'm focusing on right now is this going to be a cameo-sized role, or is this going to be a supporting role? And I don't think anybody knows for sure now, because I think the original report had said a co-starring role, and then that Deadline report said make an appearance, which would imply a cameo. I really hope it's not a cameo, though, because I love Samuel L. Jackson, and I like Nick Fury, too, and the MCU is just growing and growing and growing, and I think you do need that constant, especially with so many new solo movies coming out. So I really wouldn't mind seeing, because I saw when this news dropped, a whole bunch of people put out fan posters, and it's like kind of like this image a little, with both of their names across the top. And given how much I liked the Iron Man Spider-Man relationship in Homecoming, I wouldn't mind seeing something similar to that in Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Yeah, I love this idea, but I think the less is better, right? We see this with what happens in Spider-Man 2. Less is better, and it works. I think what Perri mentions is correct. But for me, even less of Nick Fury would be better, because this has to be Brie Larson's film. This has to be Captain Marvel's film. So he could be there to kind of be an occasional guide, or even show up near the end when she's proven herself, she's got her power, she's fought off people, and then she's there, and then he can recruit her to the Avengers or whatever and connect her to the MCU. But I think you have to let her stand on her own, do her own film, do her own things, and then eventually Nick Fury shows up for whatever reason at an opportune moment and helps her or assists her. But you got to let her stand on her own. I think it's powerful for her to do it on her own, and then at that point someone step in. But I love this idea, because we haven't seen him in two or three. We won't have seen him for 3 years in a Marvel movie, and it's time. And Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury is one of the greatest things to come out of all the Marvel movies, in my opinion.
David, do you like the idea of Nick Fury being in this movie, and how big of a role do you think he's going to play?
I think we'll see. I haven't seen Spider-Man Homecoming, but from what I've heard, that Tony Stark isn't in it as much as we see him in the trailers. A lot of people were joking this is going to be Iron Man 4. And I was watching, of course, Collider's review and hearing, Jeremy Johns talk about it, saying that it's not Iron Man 4. This is a Peter Parker movie, Spider-Man movie. So if they do the same thing with Captain Marvel, I think that's a great idea, because Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson is the glue that holds everything together, even more than Tony Stark. I mean, he seems like he's been there from the very beginning, since this whole Marvel Universe thing was created. So I think he's a perfect name, and he could be that mentor-mentee relationship like we have with Iron Man and Spider-Man. So I think it's a great idea. I'm glad, because I want Samuel L. Jackson back. He's one of the most charismatic actors out there, especially talking about black actors next to like Denzel. I mean, he's one of the best. I mean, ever since he popped up, I saw him in Coming to America, robbing the McDowells, they're all cracked out and everything. I mean, he's good, man. Give that boy some work.
So we consider a cameo more like what he did in Age of Ultron and more a supporting role what he did in Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think I'd rather see him in a Winter Soldier type role, not just a cameo, a supporting role, but not a co-star. He definitely does not want to take away the spotlight from Brie Larson and Captain Marvel, but I think him in a supporting role would be good.
Well, I didn't mean co-star like, they should have the same amount of screen time and have the same type of character arc or anything like that. It actually kind of goes to how they used Iron Man in Homecoming, where, obviously they're going to use Iron Man in the promotional material to get more butts and seats, but when you actually watch that movie, it's still very much Spider-Man's story, and Tony Stark is used just enough where their relationship means something for Spider-Man's arc. So I think if they use Nick Fury the same way in this, and, I don't know if Captain Marvel as a character really needs that or what, because we don't really know any story details for what they're going to cover in the movie, but I just wouldn't mind seeing him not just being, like, popping up at a moment where it's almost just, like, it doesn't serve his character at all either. I miss moments that make me feel like Nick Fury is going forward in addition to all the other characters, rather than just being there to facilitate like merging of powers.
It's interesting to me how the paradigm of this has shifted, right? A lot of us before the Wonder Woman came out, we were like, well, are they going to do it? Was Gal, and people loved her coming out of Batman vs. Superman, but DC didn't have the greatest track record. Are they going to do it? And they nailed it. I mean, they knocked it out of the park. That thing is making so much money. Now it shifts to like, can Captain Marvel hit it as well? And so it's interesting, and it's not surprising to see this coming out, because they're building up anticipation and like people waiting to see this happen and seeing how well it can be, if it'll match up to Wonder Woman. So I think Nick Fury, I think Samuel Jackson is the right step in that direction. Yeah.
All right, Sinead, what's next?
In a recent interview with Fandango for War for the Planet of the Apes, director Matt Reeves got to talking about his next project, a little-known property known as The Batman. With buzz surrounding War being called one of the best movies of the year, Reeves is riding high and already thinking ahead about The Batman and its possible 2 sequels. Reeves revealed to Fandango that he has been bouncing around ideas for a Batman trilogy within the DC Extended Universe, saying, "And when screenwriter Mark Baumbach and I began Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, we knew what our goals were, but we didn't know how we were going to get there, and I would say that more relates to the way I see a Batman story. It's a kind of ambition for a series of stories, but really the most important thing is going to be to tell a vital first story." Rocha, what do you think about a possible trilogy of Batman films set in the DCEU?
Oh, I'm absolutely all for it. From what I'm hearing from everyone who's gone to the press screenings of War for the Planet of the Apes, this is a fantastic film. I read Scott Mantz's review yesterday. Like, everyone is talking about how much they loved it. And Dennis, you were mentioning it off camera here. So I'm looking forward to seeing this. But I've already seen enough of Matt Reeves to know that I would love him to do a trilogy. And especially because he had this quote a few days ago where he talked about he wants a chance to do an almost noir-driven detective version of Batman that is point of view driven in a very, very powerful way. That speaks to me of the things I love the most about Batman. And I don't mean the darkness, I mean the noir aspects of him being a detective. As a massive fan of noirs from the 50s, black and white ones, I really love this idea of Batman. Some of my favorite Batmans are Gotham by Gaslight, these Elseworlds comics where he gets to actually be a detective. So to me, this is a great quote by Matt Reeves saying all this stuff. And I would love to see, and I think he has the ability to supersede the Nolan trilogy, because a lot of people don't feel Dark Knight Rises quite got there, and I think he's got an ability to do a trilogy movie with this type of Batman, this approach to Batman that would linger longer. And I think it keeps Ben Affleck in the stable. And I was watching Spider-Man again last night. I leaned over to a friend, and I said, when they were showing the Justice League trailer, God, I hope Affleck stays, because I think Matt Reeves will know exactly what to do with him as this version of Batman. And there's so much in Batman vs. Superman that was touched on. The Killing Joke, Dark Knight Returns. I think he can take those elements and play with it, and especially with Detective Comics. If he starts going Detective Comics, there's so much to play with there. Hell, bring back Man-Bat, bring back Batmite. I mean, do whatever you want to do. There's stuff he can play with, I think, that'll flesh out the universe so much more and make it interesting for us to come back to this character like we've come back to Spider-Man on a third reboot or a second reboot. We come back to it. You got to have a different approach. I think this is the right approach.
David?
Yeah, I agree. I think Matt Reeves has the right mindset for this, because you have to realize, I mean, Batman, Ra's al Ghul, one of his greatest villains, calls him the detective. That's how when he approaches him, he's like the detective. When he speaks about Batman, that's what he is. If you guys have a chance, you should play Telltale's new Batman series, which is excellent. And because the Telltale series is not like the Rocksteady series where it's mostly all-out action, you have a lot of moments for where you're just kind of doing detective work. And it might seem slow, but I love it. I mean, Batman in the Justice League trailer jokes, he's like, my superpower is I'm rich. It's like, yes, he's rich, but he's also very smart. He deducts well. I mean, he's basically the Sherlock Holmes with cooler gadgets. So the fact that Matt Reeves wants to take that approach with a Batman story, I think is perfect. I think it sets up well for a trilogy. Hopefully, maybe it'll be like some big villain he's going to work up to, and that's going to be the end of that trilogy. And we can build to that villain over the course of 3 films.
Perri?
Yeah, I love Matt Reeves as a director, and I said it in my War for the Planet of the Apes review, and I got a little backlash for it, but I kind of hold true to the fact that I think that Caesar is probably one of the best big screen characters I've ever seen, and his arc in those 3 films is really exceptional, especially, I mean, if you see War for the Planet of the Apes, go watch Rise, Dawn, and then War. When you see them all together, it is insanely powerful. So when I see him take a similar approach to Batman and wanting to explore that over 3 films, I want to say, yeah, like, obviously Rupert Wyatt directed that first film, but Matt Reeves took that character and just freaking ran with it. And there's no doubt in my mind that he can do a similar thing with Batman, and I do like the detective idea and all that as well. The only thing that makes me a little apprehensive is, given the current climate, when we constantly have things where directors fall off of projects, things don't pan out the way you want. I'm going back to the whole idea of, hold on and make that first movie first. But he did give that quote where he said it's vital to, start with a proper foundation. So it's fine that he's got that idea in his head. It's just, the cautionary person in me that wants everything to work out really, really well. It's just like, hold on. Don't say anything that could then spark some sort of backlash. God forbid this doesn't pan out the way you want. So I want it to happen. I wanted him to keep it to himself for a little while.
Yeah, I'd be more hesitant if I hadn't seen what he had done with the Apes trilogy. Yeah, he did not do the first one, but he took over for the second one, and it flowed right into it. It felt like a part of the trilogy, even though he didn't direct the first one. And yeah, you get a little apprehensive when people start talking ahead. I'm sure like Mark Webb for Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield had planned a trilogy, and they had planned all this, and then look what happened with that. I'm a little more confident with Matt Reeves, though. Remember, with the negotiations between him and WB, there was a part where he had to like leave the negotiating table for a while and cool off and come back. So that would be my only thing. I think I'm looking forward to what he's going to do. I think he's going to do a good job. I think he'll do well at the box office. The question is, signing him on for the second and third film. But he does state that he is going to focus on the first movie instead of just the whole thing. Not talking about 7 or 8 movies. Power Rangers.
Do you know what topped the home video sales?
Power Rangers, yeah.
Power Rangers.
And you know what happens when that happens?
Sequel.
Yeah. Not in this day and age.
For $5 million.
Hey,
All right.
watch, it's gonna happen, and all you guys are just gonna be like, "Oh, yep, she was right the whole time."
Direct to DVD. She was right.
Stop that.
All right, guys. Now we're moving on to buy or sell. Sinead, what do we got first?
Variety is reporting that the box office tracking numbers are in for Christopher Nolan's World War II movie, Dunkirk. Estimates place its opening in the 30 to 40 million range, making it Nolan's lowest opening for a wide release since 2006. The report cautions that these are early estimates, with the film not slated to open in theaters for another 2 weeks. Numbers could change up until its release based on reviews and word of mouth. Dunkirk faces some pretty tough competition on its opening weekend, with Luc Besson's Valerian and The City of a Thousand Planets releasing at the same time, Spider-Man Homecoming hitting theaters 2 weeks before, and War for the Planet of the Apes a week before. But fans will soon be able to see for themselves when Dunkirk hits theaters on July 21st. Perri, do you buy or sell the early box office tracking for Nolan's Dunkirk?
Okay, so a couple things with this story, because I've seen a lot of articles that present the fact that it could be his lowest opening as a bad thing. I don't really think that you can compare this to the Dark Knight trilogy, because when you do compare it, it's, The Dark Knight Rises and The Dark Knight opened biggest. Then was Inception with 62 million. I think that had a bigger overseas showing, but you know, when you look at something like Inception, that had a huge big name cast. Obviously, you're going to have more people go to see that, whereas Dunkirk is not a movie that's relying on some flashy ensemble. This is a movie that's going to wind up doing really well should it come out and it be really good and then go on to get some awards during award season. So that's one thing. So I'm not reading this as, oh, like this is going to be one of his lowest openings ever. I don't think that's the case. And also with tracking, these numbers are definitely going to change because this report came out before Spider-Man Homecoming finished its first full weekend. It is before War for the Planet of the Apes. I don't really think Valerian and Girls Trip are going to make much of a dent in Dunkirk's opening weekend, but if Spider-Man Homecoming winds up blowing away expectations, if War for the Planet of the Apes winds up doing really, really well, then you're going to have both of those movies take a bigger chunk of the box office pie come Dunkirk's release. So until those two movies come out, these predictions, they could change big time. But I'm hopeful that it will hit the 40 million, and I think that's going to be a fine start. This isn't a movie that's going to come out, everyone's going to see it, and then it's going to go away. If it is as good as it looks in the trailers, it's a movie that's going to come out, it's going to make its 40 million, and then it's going to hang on for a while. So I buy this. There you go. I forgot this was fire, so.
David?
I buy that. Like I said, I agree with Perri. I don't think that's a bad number. I think, unlike a lot of films that we see, like Batman v Superman, where it has a big release, but then has like a 70% drop off. If this is good, if it gets good word of mouth, maybe with the weekend of the 28th, or July 28th, people want to go see a movie like, hey, I heard that Dunkirk movie was good, just like I'm hearing that Spider-Man Homecoming movie is good. I'm going to go see that later. You know, you're going to go see it the next week, and maybe it only fall off. Maybe the second week it'll do 25 to 30 million. It won't have like a 50% drop off. Remember like when Avatar, I know it's maybe a bad example, when Avatar came out, I think domestically it did like 77 million the first week. Second week it did 70 million. That's crazy. Most movies they always have a huge drop off. So this could be a good thing. And it's not Inception. There's no Leo. I mean, you have Mark Rylance, you have some you have Cillian Murphy's very good actors, but not necessarily household names. So I think this is good news. I'm going to buy this. Good news.
I don't know if it's good news or bad news, but I buy that it's not the end of the world. I mean, it is a few weeks off. It is a movie. I do think the marketing can do a better job. We talked about this yesterday on Movie Talk. I think they're not selling the movie well enough. It's a war film, and a lot of people were complaining that Chris Nolan says it's not a war film. It's a drama. Hey, it can be both. Don't worry about it. So I think they're not doing a good enough job of telling people what this film actually is and is about. I think the movie's going to look good or going to be good, but so far from what I've seen of the marketing, it just makes it look kind of generic.
Yeah.
Rocha?
Yeah, I think these numbers make sense. You know, it's a World War II movie. If you look at the World War II movies, they find their legs later on in the process, right? They hang around, as Perri was saying, longer in the theater. 40 to 50 million is fine. I think this is the studio going, Nolan wants to tell this story. He's made us a lot of money before. Let's let him tell this story. And the way I think you're right with the marketing issue, Dennis. Dunkirk is about rescuing these people I think if I'm correct, Dunkirk is about rescuing these British soldiers off imminent danger. Like they're going to be destroyed because they've lost, I think, the battle didn't go as well as they anticipated, so they're stuck on this beach. So it's about all these people getting together and getting all these regular boats, commercial boats, personal boats, and taking them over and rescuing these people under the guise of the Nazis, right? Under the noses of the Nazis. So this is going to be more about a rescue mission than a war film. So it makes sense. Yes, a war will be around this film, but I think what he's saying about it being a drama is correct. It's going to be about how many of them can they save, who's going to die, will Harry Styles die, or whatever his name is from One Direction. Well, you know, all this stuff is going to happen throughout the movie. So it's going to lend itself to that. And I got to correct myself on the Schmoes No Show. I said I thought it was a 2.5 hour film. It's actually an hour and 40 minutes.
It's short.
So, so that's going to allow for more repeated viewings. And I think this is probably something you'll be able to take your family to. I don't know what the rating is.
PG-13.
Is it PG-13? Yeah. So you can go as a family to see this movie as well. And I think at this time now, World War II films, heroes, we kind of need this. More than just superheroes, we kind of need hero films. We want to go and see things like this. So I think that if it's a good film, it will definitely have its legs for a long time. Plus Nolan name recognition. And the only negative I would say, Dennis, though, is it is based on a British battle. It is, not a lot of, I was looking at the top 25 films, and only one film has anything to do with Britain and World War II, and that's The Imitation Game. Everything else is based on American soldiers or American actors. in these situations. So that's the only thing that I think might hurt it a little bit in terms of recognition.
But see, for me, a war film doesn't have to have just constant fighting or in the battlefield. I mean, look at Paths of Glory. That's not about the actual. It's about what happens with the soldiers themselves.
Yeah.
So.
Or Hurt Locker,
Yeah. All right, what's next?
With Baby Driver debuting in theaters this past weekend, the biggest opening in Edgar Wright's career, Sony is already talking a sequel. And while the movie will most likely outgross all of Wright's other films in a matter of a couple of weeks, not once did the director consider a sequel to any of his other films. But that might change with Baby Driver. Speaking on the Empire podcast, Wright revealed that Sony has asked him to consider Baby Driver 2, and it looks as though Wright is actually considering the offer. The studio have asked me to think about writing a sequel, and it is one of the ones that I might do a sequel to, because I think there's somewhere more to go with it in terms of the characters. Baby has got to a new place. David, buy or sell a Baby Driver 2?
I'd buy it. I wouldn't mind seeing this as a franchise. I really enjoyed Baby Driver. I know Spider-Man Homecoming's out, but if you haven't seen Baby Driver, maybe you want to wait a week for the theater to kind of die down, from the Spider-Man Homecoming hype, go see Baby Driver. If you have a parent, go take your parents to see it. I think I got out because the music's fantastic. I was like, my parents would love this. All the old music, the soundtrack's incredible, and it's an interesting character. I mean, you have one adventure, one part of his life, but this kid, I'm not going to spoil anything, but this kid has a very complicated past. He has some demons up there. He's not. I can't imagine after his adventures that he's all just a regular guy or ready to settle down or something like that. So I'd love to see his adventure in a different part of the country. I mean, this one took place in Atlanta. Maybe we can move away and do a different city, and he has an adventure in different cities, and he has to go back and start driving. I mean, hey, if what's his name can do it with the Transporter movies, Jason Statham. I mean, why can't what's his name? Ensign Elgort. I always butcher his name. Yeah, do it with Baby Driver.
Ansel Elgort.
Ansel Elgort. Yeah. I'm excited. I want to see more Baby Driver for sure.
I'm gonna buy it as well. I'm gonna go see it this weekend, but purely based on the numbers. I mean, Edgar Wright, this is his biggest movie he's ever had. He's had movies that people have loved, but I mean, domestically or even worldwide, he just haven't done that well. I mean, you look at Shaun of the Dead, 13 million domestic. You have Hot Fuzz, 23. Scott Pilgrim, 31. World's End, 26. This has already made 48 million worldwide, 41 in the U.S. alone. It's only, the second week that it's been out. So I think this is going to... That's why I want a sequel. I mean, I don't think Sony even expected this to do that well. So for me, it makes perfect sense. Perri?
Okay, I'm going to buy it. But when I first heard this story, my reaction was no. I thought this was such a great, satisfying, complete story for this character. I did not need to know what he was up to after the events of Baby Driver. But yes, from a business standpoint, it makes sense. Because I think this is going to be one of those films where it had a really big opening weekend, and it's going to have an itty-bitty drop this weekend, and it's still going to do really freaking well. And good for Edgar Wright. I'm happy he has a movie that's really making money at the box office, because he's got a really big following for the Cornetto trilogy. But this is something that, gets to be in the spotlight in a very different way. And I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Ansel Elgort. I love the movie. I want to see more. It's just the apprehension I have about, that was such a nice, clean, complete story. And given how the movie ends, again, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, I don't know how they're going to go further past that without almost negating what happens to him in the first one. That's really my only concern. But Edgar Wright is not the kind of guy who makes straight sequels. The Cornetto trilogy is really interesting because Shaun of the Dead built up a following, and instead of making a sequel to that, he went and he added Hot Fuzz and World's End. And they're a lot of fun, but they're like spiritual sequels to each other. So if he thinks this is the right movie to make a straight sequel, I'm gonna trust him. But, I liked Baby Driver as a sole movie to tell this character's story in one shot.
Rocha?
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. I agree for the large part with Perri. When it was over, I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
One of these self-contained films. It does not have to go forward. We can decide in our minds what happens to these characters as they go forward in their lives, in our minds, right? But that being said, I have a feeling that he thought maybe he could play with a sequel here, because John Bernthal's character is fantastic in the movie. And you create tension between them that is never resolved. And so for me, that could be the seeds for a sequel, possibly. And also, this idea, I agree with you, like the Cornetto trilogy, these are spiritual sequels. I love Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I will die on that hill any day of the week. And I love this. I for some reason, his American-style movies appeal to me just a bit more than the Cornetto trilogies do. Nothing against Cornetto. It's fantastic. But I love Scott Pilgrim, and I love Baby Driver. So if he's got I would have loved to have seen a sequel to Scott Pilgrim. Unfortunately, it didn't do well in the box office, so he couldn't.
And the problem is they did basically all 6 books in
Right,
one movie.
in one,
Yeah,
but they
which,
could have played around
they
with
could
other
have, for
elements,
sure,
right?
yeah.
And so, I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel to this. I absolutely buy it, but you got to do it right. I mean, you can play around with even Kevin Spacey's nephew, which stole every scene he's in. You know that
He was
bank
great,
scene
yeah,
was
a little
great.
kid, he was great,
You know, I'm
yeah.
not spoiling anything. That bank scene, he's great. So baby will be older. So that kid will be older. So there's stuff to play with there. And so there's certainly elements to do a sequel. You just got to write it well, or else you're going to end up with something that like Zorro, when they did that sequel to Zorro, really killed that first movie. And that first movie is really good.
Sinead, you saw the movie. What do you think about a sequel to Baby Driver?
Well, I totally agree with Perri. I feel like it resolved in a way that now, if you go back, you would have to change a little bit of the story. Like, I felt like they set it up perfectly, and like Perri said, it would negate a little bit the events that happened in the first one. So that would be my one concern. Also, Edgar Wright was at the theater when I saw the movie, and he was saying that he started Baby Driver like 24 years ago. So when I thought about that, I'm like, well, okay, this movie is fantastic. Like, I loved it so much. I will definitely see it again. And when I thought about 24 years, I mean, it shows on screen, right? The movie is so well thought out. It's amazing from beginning to end. There's not a lot of fluff. Like, it's to the point. It's action-packed. The acting is awesome. Kevin Spacey's nephew won my heart. Like, every character is so well thought out. So then I also get a little bit worried about that, because I'm like, this came to him like in the 80s, and he had this great story about it, and it's like, it was so authentic and so close to him that I almost just feel like it's so good, just don't touch it. But I will say there is a lot they could do, but they would have to change the story just a little bit. But there is a way for them to continue telling the story. And like Rocha or David was saying, this takes place in Atlanta, and as soon as it ended, my thought was, like, where are we going? You know, I don't want to give anything away, but I was like, where are we going? So I don't know. I think that could happen in another part of the world. But I don't know. I'm on the fence.
All right, you guys got me excited to see
It's
this
so
film.
good. I'm
I
so
will
excited
see
to
it this
see it.
weekend. All
Yeah,
right,
I'm so
what's
excited.
next?
Skydance Productions and Warner Brothers Pictures have unveiled a new trailer for the upcoming disaster film, Geostorm. The film marks the feature directorial debut of Independence Day and Stargate producer Dean Devlin, and takes place in a world where our weather has become so out of control it's now controlled by satellites in outer space. But when they start malfunctioning and creating a man-made storm of epic proportions, only one man can save the world: Gerard Butler. The film also stars Abby Cornish, Ed Harris, Andy Garcia, and Jim Sturgis, and it opens in theaters on October 20th. Dennis, buy or sell the new trailer for Geostorm. I feel like you have to say it like that.
Despite our graphics guy Ray and his love for these disaster films, I'm gonna have to sell this trailer. There's nothing in it that really grabbed me. It seems like a movie from the 90s, you know, like something like Independence Day, Day After Tomorrow. And I'm not saying that it can't be good if it takes itself not too seriously. It's a tongue-in-cheek type of thing. Maybe some of the one-liners. Right now, just on the trailer, it just looks really generic. I did like Andy Garcia as the president, but that was about it.
Yeah.
Perri?
I am selling this trailer, but I'm still going to see the movie anyway. I am a big fat sucker for disaster movies, because early Roland Emmerich, that kind of would make my day. I love stuff like Day After Tomorrow, Independence Day, all that. And the first trailer for Geostorm had that same feeling. It's like, you know, when you watch a disaster movie or a zombie outbreak kind of situation, and the first act of the movie is all about, like, something's going wrong. Oh, crap. And then, like, you launch into the rest of the movie. I love that feeling of, like, this is awful, of, like, the world falling apart, though. And I feel like that first teaser really captured that, where there wasn't much dialogue, and it was the song, and you had, like, the shot of the tornadoes and everything. This just feels like a big heaping mess of nonsense, where it's like the the story with like kidnapping the president. It's the satellites that are ruining everything. Oh no, it's a conspiracy. And a lot of the effects in this trailer looked like trashy, like super, super low budget sci-fi stuff. You can get away with it when it looks good. A lot of this stuff looked flat out bad, but even though I'm crapping all over this trailer right now, I can't wait to see Geostorm. Does that make any sense at all?
Rocha, you dying to see this movie?
You know, don't listen to these elitist film critics. This damn thing looks fantastic. It looks amazing. I can't wait to see it. The soundtrack is great in the trailer. All the effects look awesome. They're putting him on this. He said, I'm late to a congressional hearing because I was in Space Senator. I mean, all of that is just brilliant. It just speaks to me. Look, you guys know I'm a sucker for these stupid little movies sometimes, and this looks like this hit all the buttons for Rocha to go, yes, I'm going to go see this opening night. I mean, I love disaster movies too, absolutely. 2012, I think, was the last one that I really thoroughly enjoyed. So I love those kinds of disaster when they're done well. And this guy comes from that factory. Dean Devlin, Roland Emmerich, they were doing this all through the 90s. So Dennis, your comment makes sense. It feels like a 90s film. He's probably still stuck with that mentally. But I thought, yes, some of the CGI is not that great. Hey, you can say that about some of the moments of Spider-Man Homecoming. Some of the CGI is very evident. But so it's not a negative. It doesn't take away from the quality of the film. And I don't want to say quality of this film, but I definitely want to say that this film looks like a fun-ass time in the theaters. And I think they aren't taking themselves seriously because there's a lot of one-liners. There's that scene with him and the crew where he's like, oh, God, am I fired? You know, and number one thing, a Latino president. Oh, come on, man. It's about time. A Latino Hispanic president. And Andy Garcia is doing a great job. And they have good actors in this. Abby Cornish, this is fantastic for her to be in something like this. She's a great actress that doesn't get enough opportunity. So for me, I'm happy to see her in this. And on Gerard Butler, hey, man, sucker since 300. I see just about any film Gerard Butler is in, no matter how bad those films are. I love Gerard Butler. He's got a great charisma and charm. And what was the one he did? Olympus Has Fallen? I saw that, and London Has Fallen in theaters because of Gerard Butler. So I just love it.
You can do a double feature of Transformers in this movie when it comes out.
Ooh, that's a long time.
I do Independence Day in this movie.
Okay.
Resurgence.
David, you looking forward to Geostorm?
I am, yeah. You know, I'm going to buy this. I mean, I like the whole thing about being able to control the weather. That's very fascinating, and maybe we'll get there at some point. It's kind of scary, though, because what if somebody takes over that technology and uses it for their own, you know, didn't the James Bond movie do that at one time?
Yeah, no, Avengers did that.
Avengers did that, yeah.
Movie.
Yeah, so that looks interesting.
With Uma and just so we don't get it
Not
confused.
the MCU.
I was like, yeah.
The
yeah,
remake
so
of the
that's
60s
pretty fascinating
show.
to me.
The crappy movie. The
Yeah.
crappy movie.
And I love Gerard Butler. And like you said, talking about the 90s, it's Danny Cannon's directing it. And Danny Cannon directed Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone, which is not as good as the Carl Urban Judge Dredd, but I still had fun with it. I mean, Armand Desante was this crazy villain. I mean, it was over the top. It's 90s, you know, I am the law, all that kind of stuff. So if it captures that 90s over the top spirit, just like the X-Men comics were back then, over the top and crazy, maybe not the best, but still, I'm going to watch it. It's going to be entertaining.
What imitation was that? That was Kermit the Frog as Stallone? No,
that
was, man.
That's the best I had. That's all I can do. I'm sorry.
Wendy, you saw this trailer. What did you think?
You know, I know the table is split right now, and I'm gonna vote with David and Rocha. Look, the first trailer was better for Geostorm. Okay, I know Perri's looking at me like I'm so disappointed in you. It's a disaster movie. It's not to be one of these like thought-provoking. You walk out of the movie and it changes your life. It's gonna be fun. I'm gonna go full Mark Ellis, like eat a giant popcorn with this movie, and it's just like what Dennis said. It's like tongue-in-cheek. Yeah, it is exactly what it is. It's like what was it we were talking about? Day After Tomorrow mixed with Armageddon, mixed with Deep Impact, and just give it to me. It looks like fun. I'm going to have fun with it, and probably won't think about it much after I see it, you know?
All right, guys. Now, before we get on the mailbag, I remind you that we're going to take your live tour questions at the end of the show. You can tweet us at Collider Video. But before we get on to that, I want to mention we've been doing this contest on the Collider.com website. It's for a Baby Driver gift pack, which includes a framed movie poster signed by writer, director Edgar Wright and cast, as well as sunglasses, an official movie hat, and official soundtrack. You can go to the Collider's post, which we put in the description below. Also, we'll remind you that our new show, Comic Book Shopping, which we have our second episode that went up with Linkin Park, that's on our channel now. We had a new Jedi Council drop yesterday. Collider Collision. It's here. It's here. The big what is it, like a 5-hour, two-parter? Rocha, you're in this thing.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit about what people should expect.
There's so many great matches here. You know, nerds watch Rotten Tomatoes. You have Christian versus the In-Snyder, or the Out-Snyder, as I like to call him. And then you have the triple threat match with me and Dan and the champion, Mark Riley. Hey, listen, all of us have won the belts. We're the only 3 people that have won the belt. So it's a perfect combination to have the first triple threat match on Collider, and to have it in this, or on the Schmodown rather, on Collider, to have it in this, to have it happening now is perfect timing, I think, and especially coming off the loss that I had on Tuesday, this is going to be awesome. So, you know, if you love the Schmodown, you've got everything you could possibly want in this entire collision. So, all I can tell you is you're going to have a great time, and you know, the people who edit this, the people who shoot it, they do great production value. So you're going to enjoy the show all the way around.
Yeah, and that drops later today. Also, we have a Spider-Man Homecoming spoiler review later today. We also have a non-spoiler review that's up now if you haven't seen the film. Also, a show that me and Rocha are on, Thrones Talk.
Hello.
One of my favorite subjects,
Yes.
Game of Thrones, which I talk about it a lot.
You're never happier than when you're talking Game of Thrones.
Yeah, of course.
Like
And-
Dennis around the office is Grumpy Gus, and then you
I'm
talk
not a
Game
Grumpy
of Thrones,
Gus.
and he's like, Game of Thrones.
I have
It's a whole other
I have a
person.
lot on my plate here at Collider, if you hadn't noticed. But yes, I'm very happy talking about Game of Thrones. We have another new episode on Monday where we're going to actually speculate. The last one that we put up, we talked about more about season 6 and kind of how we got to season 7. Now we're kind of speculating what may or may not happen in season 7 based on the trailers, based on what happened in season 6, and we have a couple book readers. You and me are not the book readers,
No, we're
but
not.
Rachel and Ken are, and so they kind of bring some speculation in that. So that's going to come up, a new episode on Monday. Also, Awesome Tackler, a new episode comes out today. We also have weekend mailbags and behind the scenes with Perri. What's behind the scenes this week?
Behind the scenes is a lot of fun. We're doing some Collider impressions, and I think everyone's impression of that guy right there.
Oh,
I think it's one of my favorites.
Oh,
nice.
I wasn't privy to this. I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
I love how I just like put you on the spot right now.
Oh,
But
that's
you
interesting.
should probably watch it this weekend.
So there are people impersonating me, like
It's
my
wonderful.
laugh, I assume.
It's delightful.
Oh boy.
All right, Sinead, what's our first mailbag?
Will Lambert writes, "Hello, everybody. I was just curious as to what your guys' #1 movie-related bucket list item is. For me, it's playing a big floor piano with Tom Hanks. Thanks for being awesome. P.S. I'm with Rocha on the Transformers debate.
Louder, please, Sinead.
P.S. I'm with Rocha on the Transformers debate.
Oh my God.
Let's start with you, David. What's your bucket list movie item?
I don't know. I'd like to like go on like on a grand adventure, like in Lord of the Rings times. Not to war. I don't want to be fighting any war, but like I've always wanted to like learn. I've always wanted to learn how to like ride a horse. And it's always cool in movies. You have like Legolas, riding his horse and like they're galloping because you see people like in LA riding horses. They're going slow through the trails in the mountains. It looks stupid. I want to be like out in some big open field in New Zealand, just be riding a horse, man. Like just like Legolas in Lord of the Rings. I don't know. I like to ride horses. I've never ridden a horse before.
All right.
I don't know. That's something.
Man, you
That's
just tumblered your
so
brain.
good.
We just saw your tumbler in your brain come right on out, man.
Rocha.
Look, some of you, and this is kind of tied in a little bit to the Schmodown. Some of you know I love Dwayne Johnson 2 pieces. They're in the promo for the Schmodown. They're going to include that back and forth that Dwayne and I had to promote it. But I would love to be the Captain Marvel to his Black Adam. That would be my bucket list. Because I love Shazam 2 pieces. I love Billy Batson 2 pieces. I love that whole story, especially in Kingdom Come. He's so well used, finally, in a great story for DC. And I think that would be a bucket list for me to be able to go toe-to-toe with The Rock on screen. I would just be pinching myself every second of every day I was on the set.
Perri.
I took a slightly more realistic approach.
Yeah.
I
Thank
want
you.
to have a pickle race with Adam Sandler, like in Billy Madison. I just want to sit there and throw pickles at a wall and watch which one drops first. But as a kind of fun, realistic story, back when the movie Whip It came out, there was an outlet that commissioned me to go and try roller derby and write about it. And it was like a thing where I really liked the movie, and I could never have survived in that game had I left. I probably would be like broken to pieces right now. But it is kind of cool to see something in a movie that's like completely outside of your realm of like, how comfortable you would feel doing something and just kind of jump in and try it. I'll never do it again, but it was a good experience.
Mine goes along with an argument me and Rocha were having
What?
during the holiday weekend.
Which one, Dennis?
I would love to host a dinner party in the Clue Mansion. The Clue Mansion was obviously on sound stages. They did some of the exteriors on a real mansion, but it was mostly sound stages. If I could recreate that, have a dinner party, invite the remaining cast members like a Michael McKean, a Christopher Lloyd. That would be cool. Or just invite my friends to that cool spot.
Can we get someone to write funnier jokes?
Oh,
what did I
Rocha.
say? What did I say?
Oh, boy.
All right. What about you guys? What would you guys think is your top movie bucket list item?
I think I'd want to be in a Mission Impossible movie, but I want to be the one that pulls off the mask, like the twist reveal.
That's
Sinead?
awesome.
Well, I was really pondering this morning while I was straightening my hair. And yes, I kept thinking that my number one would be to like do Jedi training, right, with Luke Skywalker. But then I was like, oh, it's never going to happen. So like I need to put something on my bucket list that's a little more realistic. So then I was thinking I would love to like go alongside like John Wick for a day, but
Nice.
not get shot. So I would just be, I'd be like in a bubble or something, or just be in his passenger seat, like watching from the window. But I'd love to be like somebody's sidekick without having to do any of the work because I would die. So I'd love to like be in like some sort of heist or like even like a Jason Bourne or something where I get to be in the car and watch people fight.
Okay. All right. Moving on to live tour questions. What do we got, Wendy?
All right, the first one comes from Luis A. Rivera, who writes, with Spider-Man now out and Planet of the Apes coming out next week, is this the end of the summer blockbuster for the summer?
We got Valeria coming out. City of a Thousand Worlds.
I think Spider-Man: Homecoming is probably the last like big
Oh,
one,
yeah.
though. I mean, even War for the Planet of the Apes, I think it's going to do really well. But we're talking like now I'm just going to name superhero movies, but Wonder Woman, Spider-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy. I can't really think of anything else this summer that has the chance to hit numbers that are that high.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at what's coming in August.
Dark Tower, but I don't think
Yeah.
that's
That won't
going to
get
happen.
No.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Dark Tower may be the last one.
Yeah, I don't think Atomic Blonde has the.
And that's
is
early
that the-
August too.
Yeah.
Dark Tower is August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I say, Valeria, maybe because of like Luc Besson has, Lucy made 500 million worldwide. Maybe it might have some traction worldwide, but it won't hit the Spider-Man Homecoming numbers.
No.
Of course.
No.
It won't hit that high.
Yeah. I think
Domestically, I don't
Yeah, I think end of July, early August is probably.
It starts so early now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense now because
Starts in May.
it starts in like March.
Remember March?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember every week there was a huge movie coming out in March? I mean, March was crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that's just an effect of moving it up earlier. So. All right, what's next?
This next one comes from Jonathan Peck, who writes, Fox will have a Hall H panel. What movies do you think they would have to have there to show? Battle Angel and Predator might be it.
I mean,
You think they'd bring the cast out for Dark Phoenix, maybe? Just
I
like
mean-
they don't have
I
no
mean-
footage, but maybe just bring the cast
they've
out.
announced all these like mystery dates for mystery movies on their calendar. So maybe, they haven't started shooting the next X-Men movie. They haven't started shooting Deadpool 2 yet.
They could do things like, remember, I love that few years, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I guess, when they had a guy read some excerpts from Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, which was cool. He just like read and then like they had the logo come up, and I think some of the cast, but it wasn't any footage or anything, but just maybe it's like cast.
I mean, they
announcements.
could probably do like, since Ryan Reynolds loves dressing up as Deadpool and doing
Yeah,
all these like
that's true.
videos, maybe a video that's not from the actual movie again, but just for the Comic-Con
They could
audience.
definitely do Battle Angel stuff, though. I
Okay.
feel like that is
Yeah.
probably the right time to start showing some stuff because, like, I know that has an existing fan base, but I feel like the wide audiences don't know much about that. I'm really looking forward to that movie. I love Rosa Salazar, so I kind of want to see. I want to see what a Rosa Salazar-led movie looks like. But I mean, Kingsman. It's
Yeah.
coming out later this year. It's not one of those things where, oftentimes Comic-Con teases things that are coming well down the line, but
Maybe they'll show a
wouldn't
clip?
it'd be a wasted opportunity if they had the Hall H stage for however long and
Bring
they
the
didn't
cast out?
promote one of their big
Yeah.
movies for the year. So
Right.
probably that one.
Yeah. That all makes sense. Would they fully cast New Mutants? Would they bring them out as a cast to kind of announce them too?
Maybe, but
Maybe,
they
yeah.
still haven't started shooting yet on that.
Okay.
Usually you want to bring something to show people, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, I remember when Captain America: The First Avenger, they had only been shooting a few weeks, and they brought a little bit of footage out there. So same with Guardians too.
Yeah, for first look at characters and costumes, even that, like, I would find really satisfying. I don't know what the status is of that last Maze Runner movie also, but I know Maze Runner had a pretty big presence the last 2 movies at Comic-Con, so I would think that as well.
Well, Matt Goldberg speculating on Collider.com that they could do Maze Runner, The Death Cure, and Red Sparrow.
That's right, because
So,
what's his name? He
yeah.
got hurt. He got that
Yeah.
injury, and he had
Yeah.
to postpone. That's right.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot. There might be a lot to play with.
Someone in the chat said Deadpool 2 has been shooting. So
Oh, great.
I mean, if that's the case, then yeah, I totally see them bring Deadpool 2 in the showing.
On set like a couple days ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and,
with
and Josh
what's
Brolin.
his face from Hunt for the Wilder People. No?
Yeah.
Oh
Sam
my
Neill
God.
or the little
no,
kid?
What, the kid. What's
Yeah,
his name?
little
Oh,
kid.
now I feel terrible.
Oh.
Oh, give me a minute.
Okay.
If only there was a device in front
If
of
only
you
there was a-
that
if there was only a
connected
website
to
you could go
was
to.
try-
information.
I suck at the schmodown, and I'm trying to test my knowledge.
Oh, everybody calm
Oh,
down.
man, see, I
All right.
understand now. I understand why you get so riled up.
That's right. Yeah, not everyone can be champion. Yeah.
All right, what's next?
All right, this one comes from John Carlos in the chat room, who writes, "If Death Note does well, will we see more anime Netflix films?"
If what does well?
Death Note.
Oh,
But David,
Netflix anime. You know what just came out that's really good? Maybe this is more for TV talk, but it could be made into a movie. Is Castlevania, the animated series? Only 4 episodes, just came out today on Netflix, and it's written by Warren Ellis, who's a great comic book writer. It's
Yeah.
based off the Namco video game. It's fantastic.
it's
It would
only
be-
20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. 4 episodes. You can watch this weekend, Dennis. So I would say that could be pushed as a Netflix like animated film for sure. And you could do more like Death Note, other Japanese
But this
animation.
is an interesting question, isn't it? Because are we talking live action or are we talking anime? Because Death Note's based on an anime, but
Based
it's a
on
live
anime,
action
right,
film.
right.
So are we talking conversion?
I think they're talking conversion. Will they make live action movies of anime if Death
Then
Note does well?
Castlevania would be awesome live action. I'd love to see
Well,
that.
they've already come out and talked how they're going to do Assassin's Creed as an
They're
anime.
doing anime, yeah, that's
the
going the other way,
Castlevania
right,
people are going to
right.
do that.
Yeah.
But what's that one? Attack on Titan? Do you think that could be a
Yeah,
movie?
there's a movie in Japan.
Okay.
That not as good as the animated program, but if they had like a big budget,
Okay.
Attack on Titan would be awesome. Like a big budget Attack on Titan for sure.
I don't know, maybe. I'm not talking about
Oh, there's one more.
Attack on Titan,
Okay.
but with Death Note right now, I don't know. Just because there's been so much backlash with how the adaptation
really
has
is.
gone, I still really do think that it's going to be a good movie. But I know how near and dear some people hold the source material. So I feel like even though it is a good movie, I don't know if that is what is going to be, the headline story when the movie comes out. And also, it is just one anime movie. And I still can't quite process how the success of a Netflix movie really impacts everything else, just because we still don't have data with Netflix. So it's like where I can look at a box office report and say, oh, that's going to be the hot new thing that all the studios are going to want. I still can't quite figure out
don't
how
know,
that
yeah.
works with the Netflix original release.
I feel like that's through social media. Like people talked about Glow like crazy,
Yeah.
right? But hardly anybody talked about War Machine.
Well, there was
right?
something that came
tells
out,
you,
that like Netflix is being streamed more than Amazon, like HBO, Hulu, and all of them
Right.
combined. It's getting way more. It's just getting.
I feel
crazy.
like they do a lot better with their TV series
Right,
than
true.
their movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Julian Dennison. I feel so much better about myself. Nobody gets it. That's the kid from Hunt for the Wilder
Wow.
People who's going to be in Deadpool 2.
All right.
All right.
Don't forget that.
I won't now.
All right, let's do one more.
Okay, last one comes from Screen Capture Video, who writes, "Box office prediction for Spidey. It's Friday. Last chance."
Let's see. It did pretty well
Don't cheat,
this.
Cheat with what?
Looking up at something. Yeah.
Looking up.
It
what?
did. It
Box
did.
office
It
mojo.
did pretty well last night. It wasn't the top of this year's. I think the third best. I think they said Beauty and the Beast was topped with 16.3 last night or for Thursday, and Guardians of the Galaxy was 17, and this did about 15.4. I'm gonna say 103. 103.
You
I,
think
th- I
over
think I
100?
think I think the buzz will. I think the only thing that's really hurting is that there's just been so many Spider-Man movies. Had there not been those Spider-Man movies before, let's say those Amazing Spider-Man movies hadn't come out and there was a bigger gap between the Raimi ones and this one, it would do a lot better. But I think because people saw him in Civil War and also those Amazing Spider-Man ones, I think that's gonna hurt it a little bit.
I had already posted my box office predictions, so I didn't have to look up anything. I said 105 for Spider-Man, and the justification for that is, who knows if the correlation really does pan out this way, but I was looking at Guardians of the Galaxy, the first movie, and that one opened with something like 94, 95 million, and I think there's like a similar feel to this and a similar type of excitement, but given the fact that Spider-Man is a much more well-known character, I added 10 to that, so that's how I came up with 105.
I think under 100. I think 90. I just think that what you said, Dennis, makes a lot of sense. We all are excited for Spider-Man, but there's a lot of people who are like Spider-Man'd out, and because of these reboots, and like, why are you doing it again? And so I think it'll be interesting to see how the box office holds up on this. I think it'll be 90, and then it'll keep going though.
Yeah, that's quite a possibility.
Yeah,
where it doesn't hit big the
Right.
first weekend, but because of buzz and people
Word of mouth, yeah.
and going to see it again. I mean,
Yeah.
we know people here that have seen it like 3 times.
I've seen it twice,
Yeah.
and
Must
I'll
be
probably
nice.
go a third time.
Yeah.
Must
Oh,
be nice.
stop it!
Listen, David. Last night you could have gone and seen a later showing. It's not like it's at
That's true.
the
I could've-
early
that's a good
screen.
point. That's a good point. I could have seen it last.
That's
night.
what I did.
That's fair.
I got
That's
a
fair.
ticket late night. Went there.
But I
Don't play victim if you could handle your own.
But I
stuff.
kind of want. There might be somebody I want to see it with. So
Oh.
no, none of that.
Rocha got dissed. What's your number?
I'm gonna go 101.
101.
Nice price.
Okay, 101, 103.
$1, Bob.
$105.
I feel like I have the edge
And
with
you're
Price is
90
Right
what?
rolls.
Just 90 million. I think
Okay.
I'm around 90.
Wendy,
You
Sinead,
guys
what
have
are
no
your guys'
faith in
numbers?
Spider-Man. 110.
110. Oh,
yeah.
Wendy's going high. Sinead?
Oh, I wanted. I really don't think it's gonna do over 100. I think it's gonna do just under. So I'm gonna say 98.
All right. All right.
So I'm the $1 bid right now at 90 million, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm the lowest
So-
bid. Okay.
We'll see.
So we'll find out on Monday who's right around. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Collider Movie Talk. I want to thank people joining us at the table today. Perri, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at Nemiroff, and as always, don't forget to check out Collider Behind the Scenes tomorrow, 2 p.m. PST. Also, I did a mailbag with Dennis all weekend, so watch those as well.
Rocha?
Hey guys, you can always find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram, of course on Collider Movie Talk, but also the Cinephiles, which we just dropped the episode for Rocky. If there's anything JT and Fitstock and I can agree on, it is the love of Rocky. And Steve and I cover it on the Cinephiles. It's on iTunes and on Stitcher and on YouTube. And of course, the Outlaw Nation podcast on the Schmoes Know Plus podcast channel, which dropped yesterday. Just me talking about stuff that's been going on, the Clue debate that Dennis mentioned, and a number of other things. It's a really good show. So please subscribe and listen.
David?
Stay tuned for Monday's Collider TV Talk. We got a new Castlevania series that I mentioned on Netflix. We'll be talking FX new series Snowfall, directed by John Singleton. Came out on Wednesday. Also, the Defiant Ones, the 4-part documentary series on HBO with Dr. Dre and many other musicians like Eminem. Can't wait to watch that. And I'm always at Griffin DE on Twitter and Instagram.
Wendy?
You can find me on YouTube at the Movie Couple channel and on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat at Wendy Lee Zaney.
And Sinead, where can people find you?
I'm online at Sinead DeVries and at thatsocinead.com. I've got interviews with the Baby Driver cast, so after you see it this weekend, make sure you go watch that. Ansel Elgort talks about how Edgar Wright gave him one of the cars from the film, and just like some really cool like fun facts and stuff like that. So that's up online. I'll post it on Twitter. Have a good weekend.
Thanks to Adam, Cody, and Joey in the back over there. And Ray's here.
Hey,
Ray. We haven't seen him in a while.
The Graphics King.
Yeah.
Geostorm Ray.
Yeah, Ray does all the graphics here that you see on the sidebar in the front. And you guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero, on Instagram, dennis.tzng, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.